Um, to start out, I just wanted to give a little overview of the five elements in Chinese medicine. And so what I mean by acupressure points for springtime has to do with the five elements. So not only points that are good for ailments you might have at this time of year, but also to support the wood element, which is the element associated with this time of year, the spring. So each season is associated with one of the elements. And you may say, how can that be? There are four seasons, but there's a special fifth season, um, or sometimes it's associated with the transition time between seasons. But so, first of all, we have spring. So, this is wood, the element associated with trees and all plants, um, the energy of moving up and out, um, and associated with the liver and the gallbladder, meridians and organs. And then we move into summer, fire, the fire element, which is all about connection, connection with other people, communication, warmth, obviously, passion, romance, friendship, and things coming into full blossom, full realization. And then we move into this fifth season, harvest time, which is associated with the earth element, or like I was saying, can also be associated with the transition time between seasons. But I do like to think of it as that end of the summer when you are harvesting, whether it's literally harvesting any food you might have grown in the garden, or it could also be applied to just reaping the harvest from any kind of work that you've put in, or anything you've been kind of nurturing and nourishing. It's reaping that bountiful harvest at the end of the season. So things are starting to slow down. The energy of the wood and spring and summer and fire is yang, coming into that peak yang energy. And then we're starting to descend down into the yin, and even more so during autumn, which is associated with the metal element, and all kinds of rocks, minerals, mountains, and the energy is starting to slow down even more, right? The leaves, they change color in certain parts of the world, as in our New England climate. And then, so there is this kind of this crispness, this brilliance, this preciousness to this time of year, right before everything kind of goes into the complete quiet and stillness of winter. So there's almost this more of an appreciation for the transience of life and the fleeting beauty of life. And then finally into winter, which is associated with the water element, where things really go underground, and you've got the stored potential of the seeds underneath the surface, waiting for that spring to come and erupt back out into the world. And so there may not seem like there's a lot going on, but there is so much potential stored. And so with the water, it's all about these reserves of energy, and there's kind of this quiet intensity to winter. But we're going to focus on the wood element of springtime. And like I said, this is associated with the liver and the gallbladder, which are not only the physical organs in Chinese medicines, also the meridians and other pathways associated with these organs. And so in Chinese medicine, the roles of the liver and gallbladder include that they're responsible for the smooth flow of qi. So when our qi gets stagnant, which could result in discomfort or pain or emotional issues, that is from something to do with the liver and the gallbladder being unable to carry out their role fully. And as we know from Western medicine as well, gallbladder stores bile, the liver stores shui or blood. The liver is said to open into the eyes, so it has a lot to do with eye health, vision, as well as our like metaphorical vision, our vision for the future, our ability to kind of dream and plan. So where the liver envisions and plans, and then the gallbladder is what executes the plans, is the energy to carry those plans out. So the liver is compared to a general, like in the army, whereas the gallbladder would be like the boots on the ground, the soldiers carrying out the strategies of the general or the liver. Or I like to think of it like the liver is the architect drawing up the pretty pictures, and then the gallbladder's like the carpenter, getting their hands dirty and working with the raw materials and executing the vision. And it's important, right, with any planning that things are not always going to go according to plan. So an important part of the liver and gallbladder is not only being able to make these plans and envision these things, but then to pivot gracefully when there are changes. And so all the elements work together. So like we need enough water to nourish our wood so that it's flexible enough to go with the flow, move around obstacles. And this, in terms of our lives, helps us to prevent emotional distress or physical injury. And last thing I'll mention is that the liver, so each of the yin organs is said to house a spirit. So the yin organs being the liver, the heart, the lung, the kidneys, and the spleen. And so the liver houses the hun, which is translated as the ethereal spirit, and it's this spirit that leaves our body when we sleep and kind of views things from a higher perspective, informs our visions, and lends to our dreams at night, and our dreams, our waking life dreams and visions, so that we have this higher perspective. So we need to make sure we nourish our liver, we nourish our blood, so that the hun can soar and give us a higher, broader perspective of things. So that's just a little overview about the liver and the gallbladder. And now we'll dive into, we'll first go over the liver meridian itself, and then we'll dive into the specific acupressure points that we can use to support ourselves during springtime and throughout the year. So the liver meridian, if you're not familiar, starts at the inner side of the big toe, as illustrated in the picture here. And so this is called a nail point or a jingwell point, all the major meridians begin or end at a jingwell or nail point. And so you can find it just by drawing a line down from the edge of the nail to form a corner there. But if you're using just your finger, it's pretty easy to find this point at the corner of the nail and press in to find the tender point. So from there, the liver meridian runs up the foot, up the inner leg, and up over the abdomen to the lower rib cage. So the first point we'll go over, I tried to give all the different names for it. I just typically will refer to it as liver 2, but the Chinese name Xingjian is sometimes translated as moving between. And this is the fire point on the liver meridian. So each major meridian has one of each of the 5 elements associated with 5 of its points. So the fire points tend to be good at clearing heat from the body, and it is no different with liver 2. So this is good for clearing heat from the head. So heat manifests with red, the color red, pretty straightforward. May have a red face, and this is like a face that's completely red, not like a flushing red of the face is different than someone with a fully red face. Red, like swollen, itchy eyes, painful sore throat, like strep. A gushing nosebleed is usually it's considered like reckless movement of the blood if you have excessive brightly colored blood, as well as if these signs are paired with thirst or headache, or emotionally could be like excessive anger or rage. So the liver 2 point can help kind of cool down heat from the head or from the upper body. It can also treat the genitourinary region, as the liver meridian encircles the genitals, and so this could be like itchy, painful genitals or painful urinary dysfunction, burning sensation always indicates or usually indicates heat. And additionally, liver yang rising or liver fire, giving rise to internal wind signs. So this could be like stroke, which is called wind stroke in Chinese medicine, or epilepsy. So these conditions that could cause paralysis or a lot of internal damage, just much the way that a strong wind can cause to an environment. But this point, I use it also for allergy symptoms like red, swollen, itchy eyes. So that is why I wanted to include it especially. And so you can find this point by feeling for that kind of knuckle of the toe, the big toe, and going over it towards the toe. And when you come over it, pressing in to find a tender point close to the bone. So the meridians tend to hug the bone. So that's usually where you can find acupressure points are not on the bone, but right alongside it. So this point clears liver fire, spreads liver chi, pacifies liver wind, clears heat, and it benefits the lower jiao, which is that like genitourinary region or the lower part of the torso. And then next major point You've probably heard Dr. Wu talk about Liver 3 or Tai Chong, Great Rushing. And this point, if you're not familiar, you can find it by coming to the angle formed by the metatarsals or toe bones of the first and second toe. So right before that, those two bones meet, you feel for that little hollow where you can press your finger or your nail into and give it a good pressure. So this point is used for a ton of different things, symptoms all over the body, headache again like liver 2, dizziness, high blood pressure, trouble sleeping, menstrual issues, whether it's a lack of menstrual cycle or a painful menstrual cycle, urinary issues, distension and pain of the lateral costal region, so like the rib cage area, and as well as knee or lower leg pain or lumbar pain, so lower back pain that radiates to the front of the body. You can use liver 3 for that, as well as weakness of the legs. So leg pain, weak legs, back pain that wraps to the front, rib cage area pain, yeah, all sorts of things. So this point works on the chi and the blood level. It subdues yang, it nourishes yin, so it really covers all the bases, helps to regulate menstruation, and the lower jiao in general. So this is a good point in general, and a good point for this time of year, I think, in particular, when people get a little overexcited about being able to leave their homes after winter and get outside, and sometimes we rush into activity and we overdo it and we end up injuring ourselves or overdoing it and causing discomfort or pain. So chi stagnation. So this point is a major one to help regulate chi stagnation, as well as being a nourishing point for the liver blood and liver yin, so that can help us with sleep. And also this is the earth point on the liver meridian. So all the yin, it's also called the source point. So the source points on meridians tend to be really commonly used, typically, and just generally good to use for a lot of different issues, and that's certainly true of the liver point, liver 3. All right, so moving on, moving up to almost to the end of the channel, liver 13, Zhang Men, which is translated as completion gate. This point is on the side of the torso at the end of the rib cage, so it's located at the free end of the 11th rib. So the ribs wrap around from the back to the front of the body, and the last two ribs, the 11th and 12th, are called floating ribs because they don't connect at the front. So they kind of are just hanging out on the side of your body. So it can be kind of tricky to palpate sometimes the end of these ribs, but there are some markers we can use to help us get in the right spot. So it is, I indicated with green lines here, the mid-axillary line, which is just like the middle of the armpit down. the torso, and then the this is coming from the belly button, this line on the side, um, coming from the front of the body to the side of the torso. So this point is going to be, is usually higher than the belly button. It will vary depending on people's body proportions, and it's also a little bit towards the front of the body from the mid-axillary line, or maybe in line with it, depending on your body. But yeah, this can get you in the ballpark to then palpate for the edge of those ribs, and just, really we're always just feeling for those tender points. So wherever you feel that tender point that you can sink your finger or your knuckle into, go for it. You can also palpate along the end of the rib cage, starting towards the front of the body where it's easier to palpate, and then working your way down into the side until you kind of get to the end. And then that will also get you in the region of the of liver 13. And so this point is called the mu point of the spleen. So it is a point that has a direct link with the spleen, which plays a big role in our digestion. So this can be a point for what's called like the liver overacting on the spleen, causing symptoms like bloating or diarrhea. So this can be a good point to harmonize the liver and the spleen. If you've been overeating, causing digestive distress, this may be a good point. Pain in that area, as well as weary limbs, that's a sign of a weak spleen, as well as cold and pain or rigidity of the lower back. So this can be a good point if you can't, reach your back to palpate or to press on for feelings of cold or stiffness or pain of the lower back. So as I was saying, this point harmonizes the liver and the spleen, regulates the middle and lower jiao, so the middle of the torso, the digestive organs, as well as the lower jiao, the lower part of the torso, fortifies or strengthens the spleen, as well as helping to regulate liver qi. And then finally, for the liver, we're going to go over liver 14, which is qi men, translated as cycle gate. We would also, the school I went to called this the gate of hope, and used this point, it's kind of in the diaphragm area, used this point for people who were kind of like feeling stuck and frustrated and hopeless, visionless, and it tends to be like, if you get stagnant in that way, you might end up sighing a lot in kind of like repressed frustration. So this point is like kind of to release that and to renew your hope. So this can be used for that. So that's what's meant when it says this point can be for lots of sighing, also for pain in that area or in the chest area, cough, upper abdominal bloating and pain. So this point has more to do with the stomach than the spleen. So liver 13 more about the spleen, liver 14 more about the stomach, and it's closer to the stomach, which is higher up in our abdomen. So stomach pain, as well as acid reflux or masses in that area. Postpartum disorders, so after pregnancy, things to do with mood, frustration, difficulty accessing hope or vision for the future. So this point is another one to spread liver qi, but more so in this area of the upper body. Also invigorates the blood to disperse masses, and as I said, harmonizes the liver and the stomach. And where it's located, it's said to be on the mammillary line or nipple. That's like in line with the nipple, but that's not always a reliable indicator. So more so think of it as if you take the torso and you divide it in half, and then you divide each half in half, as I've indicated with these dashed lines. That will show you the mammillary line. And then it's in the sixth rib space. So that's approximately two rib spaces below the nipple, which, yeah, that can also be kind of unreliable. So more so I like to count up two rib spaces from the bottom of the rib cage, so you feel the bottom of the rib cage like we were describing before for liver 13, and then you come up one and then two in this mammillary line, and you can feel it's kind of it's a tight spot. It may be kind of hard to get at with your finger, maybe with your nail, or I like to just sometimes take my palms and just lay them right over the bottom of my rib cage and take in a deep breath and exhale if I'm feeling like energy is stagnating in this area. So that is liver 14. And next we'll move on to the gallbladder meridian. So the gallbladder meridian goes all the way from head to toe. This image is just depicting the meridian on the head, but it starts right beside the eye, as you can see here in the picture, and then it goes down to the in front of the ear, and then it shoots up to the top of the temple and then back down around the ear and then up to the forehead, and then back over the head. So lots of zigging and zagging in the gallbladder meridian, lots of decision making and pivoting and reconsidering, or not necessarily considering, but just reacting to changes and moving forward accordingly. And so from the head, it goes over the crests of the shoulder and then down the side of the body, down the sides of the leg, and finally to the fourth toe, where it ends at the nail point on the fourth toe. And so we'll start with gallbladder 20, one of the points Dr. Wu talks about a lot. I use this point a lot in acupuncture, as well as with as an acupressure point. I find it to be very useful for allergies, congestion, clearing out nasal congestion. It also helps with eye symptoms if you're having if allergies or something else is affecting your eyes, swelling, itchiness, visual issues. I use this point for all sorts of like sinus and eye issues, as well as headache, and neck ache, ear issues as well. I'm not sure if it was this point, but I used this point as well as small intestine 19, which is located like right here. It's a little, if you open your jaw, a little pocket opens up right there. So I used, that point, small intestine 19 and gallbladder 20 on someone who had lost their hearing a year prior, in the ear on that side after surgery. They'd lost like 90 or 95% of their hearing. They were wearing a hearing aid. They weren't even asking to be treated for that, but I gave them 2 treatments, and I'm assuming it was either that point or small intestine 19 or a combination, and they regained 90 to 95% of their hearing, and they no longer needed a hearing aid. So this is a great point. Either way, this is a great point. Also, Dr. Wu mentions it in particular for cluster headache, which is like that headache focused on one eye, the area behind one eye. But I use it for all kinds of headache. You can also use it for high blood pressure, or to help prevent stroke, or post-stroke, anything to do with unblocking the energy, the chi and the blood between the head and the body. This point, as well as just the points along what Dr. Wu calls the wind line, along the base of the skull. Good for that. Also for head colds. So this point is called feng qi, or wind pond, or Dr. Wu will say, I think he says it would be better referred to as wind moat, like a protective moat between the body and external forces, to kind of help prevent external pathogens from getting in and causing things like cold, or like causing us to catch a virus. So this point eliminates wind, benefits the head and eyes, clears the sense organs in general, also activates the gallbladder channel and alleviates pain along the gallbladder channel. So like I was saying, I'll use this point for neck pain, or even like shoulder pain. And where this point is located is below the base of the skull, and you feel for a hollow between these 2 muscles, the SCM, or the sternocleidomastoid, and the trapezius muscles, which the traps run up the shoulders and kind of come to a point in the center of the neck. So it's in that space between those muscles, and below, this is like where the skull ends. So you feel for this tender hollow, and then press in and up, and you can also press toward the opposite eye. And there's a point fairly close by, bladder 10, which also has some overlapping use for that, so you can't go too wrong. And then next we will move all the way down to gallbladder 31 on the leg. So this also has wind in the name, feng qi wind market. So this also eliminates wind in the body, and can help to alleviate itching all over the body, hives, and it also activates the gallbladder channel and alleviates pain. I would use it more for more local things like sciatica, and Also, you can use it for numbness, weakness, or atrophy of the leg, knee pain. But yeah, mainly I use this point for sciatica. Really just all along this channel. It's like the IT band area. There is a point over like the piriformis, so on the buttocks. That is great for sciatica, but it might be hard to reach on yourself. So this point is an easier point to reach. And it's said that if you're standing up and you bring your hands to your sides, it kind of lines up with where your middle finger is. Not necessarily reliable, but you can try that and feel and see if it's a tender point or if there's a more tender point nearby. Again, it's on that like IT band on the side of the thigh. You can also take your hands, your two hands, line up the pinky of the bottom hand with the knee crease, and then place your other hand on top of that one, and then add about an inch, and that should get you to gallbladder 31 as well. So it's 7 anatomical Chinese inches up from the knee crease, or slightly less than a third of the way up from the knee crease to the top of the leg. And then next, gallbladder 34. So this is the earth point of the gallbladder meridian, Yangling Quan, Yang Mound Spring. This is a commonly used point for pain all over the body, but especially the knee. Also can be used for the hip or even the rib cage area pain. And this is found by feeling for the head of the fibula, which is the skinny bone on the outer side of your leg. Feeling for the head of that, and then going down a little bit and in a little bit, so towards the front of the leg and towards the foot, and feeling for the tender point. And you may have to press in pretty deeply to feel the head of this bone, and it can be mixed up with the tibia, which is the bigger bone in the leg, so not to be mixed up with that. If you're really having trouble, you can just kind of run your hand up or eyeball up from the outer ankle, so staying in approximately in line with that, and then coming down and in from there to feel for this point. And yeah, as always, feeling for where it's really tender. So even if you're following the directions perfectly and you're like, this point really doesn't feel like much, and there's something else close by that does, then that's probably a better point for you to press. So this point, as I was saying, can be used for all kinds of pain, as well as disorders of the sinews, the tendons, the ligaments, the gallbladder, and liver are said to control the sinews, and so treating them can really nourish our tendons and ligaments, our joints. So arthritis, you can use this point for. You can also use it for if you're at a stage of sickness where you're experiencing chills and fever. That is where it's considered that there's a pathogen that's kind of half in, half out of your body, and you can use this point with Sanjiao 5 which I guess that's a bonus point we'll go over, is on the forearm. If you come down from the wrist towards the elbow, it's about, if you line up the second knuckle of your index finger with your wrist and point your finger towards your elbow, that will land you at about Sanjiao 5. So those 2 points together can be used for chills and fever. Also for one-sided paralysis, so post-stroke. Anything one-sided is usually a gallbladder issue. One-sided pain, one-sided paralysis. This point benefits the joints, activates the gallbladder channel to alleviate pain, spreads the liver qi. It also clears gallbladder damp heat. So this could be digestive issues from like eating too much fried food or sensitivity to fried fatty food. And as we were saying, harmonizes the gallbladder and the Sanjiao for that chills and fever issue. All right, and then lastly, gallbladder 40, Chu Shu, Mound of Ruins, or also known as Wilderness Mound. So the mound being referring to the ankle, but also you can think of this point as helping to give you a higher perspective to survey. You might feel like you're amidst ruins and you're not sure what to do, or you're in the wilderness, you're in the thick of it with something, and this point can help to gain a higher perspective. So that's more on a spiritual, emotional level. And on a physical level, again, pain of the chest or rib cage area, one-sided headache. I use this point for headache in general. Eye issues like red, swollen skin around the eyes, poor eyesight, sore throat, acid reflux, inflammation of the gallbladder itself, as well as shingles. So this point spreads liver qi and clears gallbladder heat or damp heat. And once again activates the gallbladder channel to alleviate pain, benefit the joints. And it also regulates Xiaoyang, which is the combination of the gallbladder and the Sanjiao channels. And to find this point, you can just draw a line along the front and lower borders of the outer ankle, and then come in from that little corner that you form, and feel, as always, where you can kind of sink your finger in. It's a little bonier around here, so you might not be able to press in super deeply, or you can use your nail to feel for that tender spot. All right, and so a source that I used, a major source that I used for this presentation is a manual of acupuncture by these authors, and so this is a quite a tome. It's a rather large book with highly detailed information about all the acupuncture points and meridians, and so it is a bit of an investment, but if you are curious to dig in, that is a good source. And once again, my name is Michelle Marisi. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and practitioner of Chinese medicine at Wu Healing Center. and I'm based out of Rhode Island, so I also practice in Rhode Island. And you can feel free to reach me at either call or text that number. You can also send me an email at acupuncturebymichelle@gmail.com. Find my website at acupuncturebymichelle.com. And if you'd like a copy of these slides, please feel free to send me a text or an email or a Facebook comment. I'd be happy to share it with you, and look forward to some more to come. All right, happy spring.